Well, better late than never, right, Hippo?
What?
Yeah, better late than never.
What's happening?
The whole transition into we be live and stuffs. That whole thing.
Who are you?
I know, that's kind of what it feels like. That's kind of what it feels like. Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. Everyone, welcome to the Newbcast podcast for the 6th of August. My name is Mr. Shelgene, joined by Hippo.
Hey, it me.
Hey, you.
Hey, it me, that hot dog guy.
Oh my.
Could that just be my motto from now on? Hey, it me, that hot dog guy.
I might just add the quote to your to you somewhere. I don't know where. I'll make it a Easter egg or something.
Sounds good.
Oh my gosh. I feel like it's.
Can you just like change my? So let's just address it right now. Their overlay's a little different, but can I just get like that hot dog guy? I'm gonna rebrand.
What you don't realize is I'm just gonna make a hot dog thing that's gonna go into the corner of your nameplate, and it'll just fade in and out like a neon sign.
Okay, okay. Never before have I said this to anyone. In my panels, the new panels that I made like a couple months ago, there is a hidden hot dog in the panels, and no one has said anything because no one looks at the panels.
Oh, it's true though.
It's pretty subtle, but it's there. You can actually see a hot dog. There, I'm not gonna say this on my stream, so whoever's here and whoever actually listens to the podcast can go look at my channel and see the hidden hot dog.
That's great.
I'm not gonna tell you which panel it's in, but it's in one of them. And there is most certainly a hot dog hidden there.
Oh, that's so good. I don't have anything quite like that myself, to be perfectly honest. Nothing, no hot dogs or anything. So, yeah.
So I just thought of some really, really lewd stuff to say, but I'm just gonna, it's filtering it out. Filtering it out. Look,
really?
We're like 10 seconds. We're gonna get demonetized.
OBS crashed. OBS crashed. That's what happened.
Nice. Yeah, it do that.
You had music and no, we got it. We're sorted.
I'm gonna
my
ban
gosh.
you, Salty.
Look. It wouldn't be a podcast if there weren't technical difficulties at this point, right?
Oh my lord.
It's sad, but it's so true that it just would not be a podcast if sorry. OCD thing.
This is going well, everyone. Thank you for witnessing this. Good times.
Yeah, right. Well, should we kick this off doing what we normally do and talk about some of the games we've been playing?
Sure. It's been a while.
Yeah.
This might take a while.
That's kind of the idea. That makes sense.
This might take a while. How long do you have? How long do you want this podcast to be?
It should be a decent length episode. Yeah.
So 8-10 hours. This is what I'm used to.
Not that long. Let's condense down from there.
6? Okay. Let's go. 6-hour podcast.
All right.
You should go first. You should go first because
yeah, okay, fine.
You've been playing. You already know what I've been playing. I've
well,
only played one game.
Only one?
I lie. Go on.
2? 3? You know the funny
6.
thing is I've been playing a fair amount of them too. One of the most recent things that I've worked myself through, and I'm sure we're gonna come back to this, but I'm gonna mention it right now because I've never actually played the series before. First time I ever played the series, and I just finished it on Tuesday, late Tuesday, was Mass Effect. Went through the entire Mass Effect trilogy.
How did that go?
Well, so the interesting thing about that, right, is that I started Mass Effect on the original client. So I played Mass Effect 1 as it launched in 2008. I didn't play that in Legendary Edition. And I played most of 2 in the Mass Effect 2 client. What eventually got me with Mass Effect 2 is that you could not buy any more of the DLC. So I ended up just like saying, I'm going to go buy the Legendary Edition because apparently I need to play the Shadow Broker DLC.
I remember playing the Shadow Broker DLC, but I don't remember playing the Shadow Broker DLC because it was 10 years ago. I don't know, like 15, 20 years ago.
For my Shep, Liara was her bae. So I had to play the Shadow Broker DLC. That was just the way it was. And everyone made sure I had to know. Fair. Yeah. So I figured I was going to eventually get the Legendary Edition anyway. So I just pulled the trigger and got it. So partway through, I had to figure out how to convert my game file from the original Mass Effect 2 client to the Legendary Edition client, which you can do for the record. But it actually screws with some stuff in Mass Effect 3, which I played completely in the Legendary Edition.
Oh. What happened?
You recall in Mass Effect 3 the war assets, correct?
Totally. Look, I played through all of it, but I don't remember it.
The war assets were kind of the things that you needed to be able to go after the Reapers at the end of 3, and a certain number gave you certain endings. Yeah. The calculations on what assets you had changed in the Legendary Edition from the original games, and the carryover files were calculated differently. All your choices and whatnot were weighted differently. And that impacted my end of 3. Which I didn't know that.
Did it though?
I mean, I took the control ending, so kind of, but not really, but kind of.
That's fair. I feel like this is not even a spoiler. So if you've not played the Mass Effect series or Mass Effect 3, this is not really a spoiler, but people were very angry about how the choices that you make throughout the whole story really doesn't change the outcome. And so then obviously the developers changed it a little bit, but even then it really doesn't change. Like you're pretty dead set on like what's gonna happen.
Well, if Crafty and I were talking about this the night after, or that night of, right, and we had mentioned there was an interview she talked about with Casey Hudson, the director of Mass Effect, and ironically at one point he said that, don't worry, the ending won't be you have to push the big blue button or the big red button, and that is literally what you do.
Nice. Yeah, it's been a really long time since I played a Mass Effect game. I actually, well, that's not true. I tried to go back to Mass Effect 1, and I played the very intro scene, and then I was like, I'm done. I'm done. I can't.
Admittedly, I kind of want to try it now in Legendary Edition because some of the stuff like gunplay and whatnot has been improved greatly in Mass Effect 1.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
But even so, it's do you ever watch a movie and then you try to watch it again and because you're like, oh, it was really good, and then you're like, actually, I don't actually want to watch this, or like an episode of a show and you're like, yeah, I don't really care. That's kind of how I feel about Mass Effect. Now, I liked Mass Effect a lot. It was a very good game when I played it, but I just have zero interest in going back.
I think it depends on how you view it, right? If you play a very similar story outcomes, then yeah, I could see absolutely where you're coming from. The fact that it has the element of choose your own adventure, I think, gives way to some replayability, because there's something to be said about playing whole Shep, versus like Paragon Shep.
Yeah.
Because the Shep that I made, I based off my RP character that I've been playing for the last 2 years in the GTA community, right? I basically took her personality. I'm like, we're gonna make her a shepherd, which is primarily Paragon, but there's gonna be moments where she's just like, forget it, and just like pulls the trigger on something and does a renegade moment overall. So, like, if I were to go back and not play it that way and play a jerk, or play the story of someone that starts Renegade, that has that type of attitude, and after the start of 2 and the resurrection of Shep, and start becoming more Paragon, it could be the story could be interesting in that way, just to see how it is told ever so slightly differently, even if the end result is still the end result in the same.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not really interested in going back to Mass Effect. I enjoyed Andromeda, but I also enjoyed Andromeda because of the bugs. I'm one of those people who actually enjoy the bugs. Unless they're game breaking, of course.
Yeah.
You know, when there's like character models walking around all weird and stuff, I actually find that like really entertaining. Because it's obviously not supposed to happen, which you get to see something that's not supposed to happen. And I guess nowadays, though, I guess that's pretty much how all games are. Like when they come out, it's all like,
yeah, EA was just ahead of the curve, you know?
Yeah, just ahead of the curve by like 5 years.
Right. It makes me a little worried about the newest one that they're currently developing too.
I'm not worried about it. It's gonna be good overall, but it's gonna have jank, and there's nothing that can be done about that. So, but yeah, I enjoy Mass Effect. I enjoy the story. How about not so much the story, but the world?
Yes,
kind of like I enjoy the story of the universe more than, or not the story. I keep saying that. I enjoy the universe more than I enjoy the actual story. Like the universe, the world building, the characters are interesting. You
like the lore of it.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. It's like space opera, like save the everything, and you're like, well,
it's funny. Cool, I described it the same way too. Exactly described it the same way. I described it as a space opera because it absolutely is.
Exactly what it is. It's like Star Wars, but not.
Well,
that's exactly what it is. Wow. Yeah. Did I? Oh man, I cracked the code.
Because look, every space opera is like Star Wars. It really is.
It is true.
But yeah, no, I can absolutely see that. There's a lot of things about it. Like I found the Asari to be interesting. I got a kick out of how just the way Tachanka was torn apart and the way the Krogan acted about it and their mindset on everything, just the way that they are between Rex and Grunt. And I found that all that interesting too. It's really easy to get engulfed and very interested in everything that's going on there, even if the overarching story has moments of, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
But yeah, I can see that, and I think that's part of what made people hopeful about Andromeda when that came out, and I think that's probably what makes people hopeful about the newest one when it does come out later on in a couple years.
Let's hope it's good.
I will circle back on what I've been playing, but I think it's worth mentioning. Well, you know what? No, we'll save that for the topic section. I'm gonna try to keep this on the rails a little bit. I can't help myself. I want to talk about it, but we'll save it.
Okay.
I think only because we should have our third by then too, and I want to make sure that he gets his 2 cents in on it as well.
Fair.
What else have I been playing? So the original Final Fantasy ported to PC. So I played that a little. Question mark.
Do you mean you played that? You can play that on your phone.
I can. But yeah.
How was that?
Some of the interface was a little different, and I think it runs a little bit smoother. It's so much easier than the original client of it though. Like if you play the original NES cartridge, it's so much tougher. Any of the remakes, whether it's the PlayStations or the mobile phone editions or the PC port, it's as long as you get a few levels ahead of where you're supposed to be, it's just a breeze.
How do you feel? So do you feel it's like suffered from the dumbing down, or games used to be hard just to be hard for back in the day, and then like over time things have gotten a lot easier, quality of life options, etc. Do you think that the developers took the original and were like, okay, this game kind of sucks and there's not really a lot of replayability for newer people, so let's make it like easier to hop into? Do you think like
that's a good question? The thing about it is, I don't know. Yes and no. I think what probably made the game easier was the fact that the original NES cartridge actually had glitches in it as far as like stat calculation and leveling calculations, which made the game that much harder. And after they fixed that, the game became significantly easier, especially if you're a person who had beat the game multiple times with that extra difficulty set situation because the calculations weren't right. So when you already playing at a handicap and all of a sudden you play the game the way it was intended with the code correct, it just worked better. And
that's fair.
Yeah, I think also by doing that you're not grinding as much, which is nice because JRPGs they're notorious for grinding. So much grinding.
Okay, so I'm gonna level with you right now. There's a reason why I actually don't play the hell out of Monster Hunter. Or
it just broke. It just broke. But I think we're good.
Well, there you go.
I think we're good.
Okay.
I think we're back again.
You didn't even like transition or anything, right? You just literally just not even looking at it. Are you back? Okay.
Yep. Literally just come back that way.
OBS censorship, my opinions are very unpopular and apparently are just too hot. I have too hot of a take, and OBS says no.
Clearly,
I don't even remember what we were talking about. Like
we were talking about how you were talking about the like why you don't play Monster Hunter and other.
Oh right, yeah, JRPGs. the grind is too real. It's too much. I love Korean MMOs, but they're always like way too grindy where like you literally have to play it as a job. And hi, hello, it's me, filthy casual Hippo, who doesn't play. Here's a problem. I actually find games that are like built around being a filthy casual so much more interesting. So I put way too many hours into it that you would like a normal human wouldn't, right? So I would be like, for instance, I covered the launch of Mini Motorways.
Yeah.
Which is it's a game where it's like a city builder, but not. Think of city skylines, but instead of building the city itself, think of you are just managing the traffic and making roads from like little neighborhoods to stores and back. And as time goes on, the camera zooms out and you get a bigger and bigger map, and different neighborhoods and stuff sprout up, and you have to like connect them with roads and stuff. Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I was not expecting. Tracy, oh my goodness. Hi everyone.
What's going on, you guys?
Oh my gosh, I know that she was playing Dark Souls. I totally wasn't lurking in her channel earlier today.
That hype emote is so cute.
Right? Oh, I've really enjoyed hanging out in Tracy's channel. She's a very wholesome but just a positive streamer. I've really enjoyed hanging out there. So yeah, no, it's been great. In fact, she just finished Mass Effect 1 yesterday, so she's also working on her initial playthrough.
Ooh. I really hope it's the remastered version.
Yes, she was playing.
Okay.
Tell us about the podcast, Tracy. Welcome to the Newbcast podcast. We're a gaming news and other related gaming topics podcast. So basically, we talk about the stuff we've been playing. We talk about any related news to that and any other big headlines that are going on in gaming, as it were, when we go live. Yeah. So we're just kind of going. We start everything up by doing an introduction. For those that don't know who I am, my name is Miss Michelle Dean. My co-host here is Hipponanimous.
Hello.
Both respectively on our channels. And we both are variety casters that play different games and such, and we can together talk about it.
Am I allowed to talk about wieners?
Oh my gosh, Hippo! Again?
I broke OBS earlier.
You're gonna break it again! You're gonna break
I'm
OBS
sorry.
again. And it's just like, no,
I'm
don't.
sorry. I just, I really like hot dogs, okay?
Oh my gosh. What were we talking about? That was the biggest derail I've had in a long time.
It's just derailing after derailing. It's fine.
That's what our show is.
Mini motorways. We're talking about mini motorways.
Mini motorways, yeah. So, okay.
Yeah, mini motorways is super good, right?
I saw a little bit about that. So it help me understand that a little bit better. So I play a lot of City Skylines, right? So I know a lot about the city building and different buildings that you can play and whatnot in place.
Yeah. So mini motorways is, well, we're talking about casual games and how I go hard on the casual games and then don't really care for the like super in-depth games because I am a filthy casual and I like to jump into games and then jump out of them.
Mm-hmm.
So mini motorways, I have like almost 100 hours in, and I streamed probably at least 40 of that. So it's a game where you're basically managing traffic, like City Skylines traffic, except for you're not building the entire town, you're just building the roads. So you're essentially the Caltrans or wherever you're from. You're like the roads, you're like the civil engineers or whatever, and you're like, okay, well, this random house popped up in the middle of nowhere, and these people got to get to the store. How do I get them over there? What's the most efficient way? We use roads and all that stuff, but it really doesn't have a lot of depth to it. I mean, it does, but not. So
okay.
It's a very casual game. It's made by the makers of Mini Metros, which came out in 2015.
Okay.
So Mini Motorways just came out, and it's different because you're dealing with cars, and it gets really, really intense and crazy the longer you survive. It's basically a survival game because if you get too much traffic, it ends, and the whole city is shut down, and they nuke you. I don't know what they do, but
they nuke you. Yeah, clearly that's
like,
why
the traffic. Yeah, the traffic is so bad. They're just like, you're done.
Well, maybe that's what happens because I don't know about you, but sometimes when that traffic gets that heavy, that's kind of what you just want to just look. It just needs to go away.
I live near the 405. I know all about that kind of traffic. 6-lane gridlock for like miles, as far as the eye can see. Just traffic. Bumper to bumper, stopped on the freeway.
Everywhere the sun touches is the 405 and gridlock.
Yeah. But yeah, so I go ham on those very casual games, and when they're like really in-depth games, I tend to like get overwhelmed like a lot. Like to the point where it's like so many things that you can do that it's like indecision, right? It's just not, it doesn't stick. It's too much. And so casual games like Mini Motorways captures my attention and I can like play it. It's also a dad game, and that's what I do.
I mean that's fair. So I guess, okay, because I've been looking at it a little bit. I've been curious about it. So if someone like myself or anyone else that came from like City Skylines that's used to that type of management, that city sim management, would you say that it's more simple than that, or is it just as complex in its own way, or how different is it?
I don't think Mini Motorways is that in depth. There's like little things. So instead of like connecting roads that curve like that, you can connect it at a diagonal, uses one less road, and it makes traffic smoother. And then you have roundabouts and traffic lights, but no one uses traffic lights. They always use roundabouts because it doesn't stop the flow of traffic.
Of course.
But I'm very much like, here's a roundabout, here's a roundabout, here's a roundabout, connect them all.
as does everywhere.
Like there's a very famous I think it's a 5 roundabout intersection in Britain, and it's insane.
I know which one you're talking about. And just trying to.
It starts with an S. I can't remember the name of it, but somebody linked it to me while I was playing Mini Motorways, and I was like, I I'm looking at all the like, you know, the traffic signals and like all where you're supposed to go, and I'm like, I wouldn't know. If I was driving in there, I'd be like, well, I'm going straight through because I have no idea.
You know, the funny thing is I happen to know someone that lived about 10 minutes away from there at one time, and he was like, no, once you get used to it, it's easy. If I could give that man a deadpan stare, I would have.
I have like 750 hours in flight sim, and that is hella complicated by learning how to fly planes. But I still find that roundabout more intimidating than learning how to fly a plane.
You know, that's fair. I think that is perfectly fair, though, right? Oh
yes.
Gosh. This kind of makes me just want to keep playing. I actually try it out because, like I said, it's been on my list anyway. So
it's like super cheap.
$10, I think.
It's like $8.
Oh, is it only
$9.99?
Yeah, $10. Or
it was on sale when I played it. Because not only am I a casual, I'm broke.
You're broke. So, gosh, what else have I been playing? I checked out this one simulation game. It's got a very, very laid back feel about it. Perhaps you heard of it. It's called Power Wash Simulator.
Can we not talk about how many hours I have in Power Wash Sim?
No. Let's talk about how many hours you have in Power Wash Simulator.
Okay, well, I'm approaching 100 hours in Power Wash Sim. I've hung out with the devs. They're good people. I have nothing bad to say about them. The game is fun. It's, again, one of those casual games where you can just pick it up, you can leave whenever you want, come back to your progress. It's if you don't know what Power Wash Sim is, it is a simulator where you power wash things.
Yeah.
I don't know how you know.
It's exactly what you said it was, right? You get the different attachments, and you can wash things different ways, and
yeah, you get the Babu's first squirt gun, which is essentially like a little, you have to, and then eventually you get a fire hose. But yeah, it's so addicting. It's one of my like Zen games where if I'm having a bad day, or if I'm just like ultra stressed out about a deadline and I want to procrastinate, I'm gonna play that game.
It's funny because there was a night where we had just finished up. I think it was actually we were playing American Truck Simulator. It was a group of us, and we raided into you, and you had managed to convince a couple of the people that I was doing American Truck Simulator to get the game, and all of them all agreed that it was a really calming and relaxing game that they had a hard time putting down. And
yeah,
sorry,
it's one of those games.
Sorry, go ahead.
It's one of those games that like you hop into and you're like, this is probably really stupid. Like Euro Truck, for instance. Euro Truck Simulator I saw, and I was like, why the hell would anyone want to just drive around? It's stupid. And then I bought the game on sale and I played it, and I was like, well, here's 1,000 hours into this game.
I think it's what it is about all those simulation games, right? One of the big things about those simulation games is that it's really easy to get into in a way that you don't have to put a ton of awareness into what you're doing. You just kind of do it. It makes it easy to zone out.
It's I love those Zen games, like Zen games, like being Power Wash Sim, Euro Truck, American Truck Simulator, gosh, I don't know, Farming Simulator, like those, just a lot of, I don't know if you know, I'm a simulation streamer, so I pretty much play only sim games. But yeah, it's just, I don't know, it just takes me to that happy place. Speaking of happy places, have you oh boy, have you played Lawn Mowing Simulator?
I've heard of it. My friend Music Chick was telling me about it. She had mentioned that it exists. I'm curious. I'll admit that I'm definitely curious about that one too, just to see what it's about. I'm also not going to talk about how I suddenly ended up with farming simulator in my library all of a sudden.
Oh, you're gonna be a simulation streamer? Oh, hell yeah.
I kind of already was in a way, right? Because one of my main games was a simulation game.
True. But Elite Dangerous is not farm sim. That is a factual statement that I just made. It's a factual statement. Objectively true.
is it because you go out mining? That's farming. I'm just gonna put that out there.
You're not farming wheat though. You're farming
wheat?
Metal. Yeah, wheat. Well, at H with before the W. Wheat. Yeah. Okay. So speaking of Farm Sim, did you know that Farm Sim 2022 is coming out in a couple of a month?
It's like every 15 minutes. It's like something's happening with the driver or something, I think. But we're back.
Strange.
Again.
That sucks.
Yeah.
What did you do to it?
I don't know.
Well, don't worry. We'll get into it later after the stream.
Yeah.
After the podcast.
After the podcast, we'll figure it out and see what's causing it to do that. I should have probably checked that because I was noticing that when I was putting together the new scenes because new look, right? Which, as I'm looking at it on the screen, I still like the way it looks. I'm really happy with how that turned out. You know.
That's great.
Mm-hmm. As long
Except
as
for the lack of wieners. I'm a wiener streamer now. A streamer?
Streamer?
I'm a wiener streamer now, dude.
Oh gosh. So to your question, yeah, I think I knew about the new farming sim because someone else brought it up because how deep of a discount the most recent one that's currently out went down to the Steam Summer Sale.
Hot dog. Yeah, I'm really excited. If you haven't, have you streamed it before?
Mm-mm.
You should. It's a lot of fun. Get a server. Get a server so your community can play with you, and they will go ham. Just know that if someone goes ham and does play 16 hours a day, which some people will, time continues. So if you have loans out, you're gonna come back the next day and be screwed. We learned that the hard way.
It's the funny thing is one of the other games that we dabbled back into, and there's a community server for is Minecraft. For whatever reason we did that. And,
oh, really?
Yeah, so my community's got a Minecraft server.
Very nice. We had one, but the people who were hosting it had to move, and then their hard drive died or something, and so we lost it all. We were playing Pixelmon.
Oh, that's right.
Pixelmon was a lot of fun.
You know, I have one of the commercial services, but it's enough, and it's something to jump into. A lot of those games like that too, I feel like it's so easy to jump back into. Just like I'm sure you're aware of this, but on Tuesdays we do this. There's a few of us that do Toxic Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, Didact, who's here, also is one of those people that participates in that. And last week, I may have dragged them into the wonderful world of Terraria.
Oh, that's actually a really fun game, and it's really fun to stream too.
Yes, it was fun watching him. Dreep, who was with us, had the dumbest amount of starter or beginner luck that I've ever seen. Like, she's just like, all right, I'm just gonna go gather resources. She goes out and starts mining, goes down the tunnels, and she'd find a chest, and then another chest, and another chest, and another.
Wow.
It's just like, God damn, woman, what are you doing to find all this stuff, and how are you beating all of us there? It was ridiculous, but I mean, she killed it. I think having the Toxic Tuesday too kind of allows for us to see like or revisit other games that aren't necessarily new, but worth revisiting, especially if you're trying to find games to play with other people, because that can be sometimes it's a challenge, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
I really found that to be a hurdle, as it were. I'm trying to think what other games I've really been playing. Oh, Quinn Diesel's here, so I'll mention the Division 2 is the other one I've been playing a bit of.
Really?
Yes.
How are you liking it?
You know what? I'm really glad I went back to it and played more of it. They've revamped it a little bit since I played before, and yeah, I think what really helped with it is that got the game during the summer sales for Crafty, and she was playing it right one night while I was doing something else, and she randomly received a prompt to a fallen player, like a distressed player, like an agent in distress, right? So she goes and helps out because she got the prompt. She didn't really understand what it was at the time. Encountered Quinn Diesel, who's in chat here, and his girlfriend, who it was actually a very wholesome and positive experience. Like, cool. It's great to actually, first time encounter finding nice people, it's a nice change. And that's kind of been
the experience. Funny because you would think that in a game with PvP and stuff, it would be more toxic. Inherently, we can get into this later, but like WoW, for instance, is inherently kind of toxic. Not even like on purpose. It is on purpose, but not in the level in which it has become.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting to when you have a PvP game, when you have those wholesome experiences like that, you're expecting toxicity, and when you don't get it, and you're like, oh, people are nice. What?
Yeah, right. It's just, I don't know. It's a relief when you find that, and you're just like, I want to go ahead and just keep moving along and playing the game with you when we happen to overlap on that time. So since then, this was probably about a month ago. I've got my second agent up to level 30. She's got hers maxed out. We're just working our way through the story. And I think part of what we got to try to figure out, and hopefully with some of the new people we've encountered, is figure out end game. Because once you beat the capital, it's like, what do I do now? I could do, because map events reset, and you can do some of that to a degree, but it can't be just map events. Like, whether it's going into the dark zone or doing something else, you got to figure out what it is for end game that you want to do.
Yeah.
So that's the other one I've been playing a bit of. That and I
think I only put like 20-ish hours into that game.
Leveling's a little bit easier now if you stay on the missions. Like, if you work your way through the stories or side missions, leveling goes a little bit faster. It doesn't feel so grindy.
I think what happened was that it was destroying my GPU or my CPU, one of the two.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was like when it came out, it was like just wholly unoptimized. I don't know if it's still pretty bad now, but back then it was rough.
I feel like it still runs a little. I mean, it's an Ubisoft game.
Well, it's always their DRM, right? That ruins the gameplay.
Yeah.
For like paying customers, they ruin the experience because they're afraid of like a very small percentage of pirates.
Yeah. Yeah, it's there, but I don't know. I don't think it. I've seen it worse. I think it's better optimized than Uno is.
We don't even talk about Uno. Uno doesn't exist to me.
It's true, though.
I had a very bad experience with Uno, and Uno is it just doesn't. It's not a thing. I refuse to admit that Uno is a game made by Ubisoft at all.
That's fair. That's fair. And more PUBG, because a group of us do that every Sunday morning, or most Sunday mornings. So, which I think the best way to play that game is to not actually care about winning. If you do, it's nice, but it's about having fun with people that you're playing with, and that's been the gist of things I've been playing. With Hippo, what stuff have you been playing?
Well, we touched on quite a few of the the games that I've been playing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we talked about lawn mowing sim. I have access to it, but it's under NDA, so I can't talk about it other than let's see. I've played in the past 2 weeks. I've streamed about 86 hours of Flight Simulator,
Mm-hmm.
which just got an update actually, which is fantastic. It was updated and launched on the Xbox.
Okay.
So millions and millions more people are playing. It's great because the Twitch category kind of was dwindling. It was very much like, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 prominent streamers, and then like, I don't know, 20 people with like a viewer.
Oh, sure.
And so it was like a very much a dying category. And now that the Xbox has launched, it's revitalized the whole community. There's so many new pilots. Everybody is really excited to check out the game. I get so many new people coming in asking me like, "Hey, what do you think of the game? Did you just get it?" And I'm like, "No, I have 750 hours in this game. I know a thing or two about it, you know." And so it's been really good. It's as a streamer, at least for me, it feels really good to have people come into my channel and ask me questions about games that I can just be like, "Pa pa pa pa." I know exactly the answer. I can just help you out like immediately.
Yeah,
People ask me like, what plane, what add-on, blah blah blah, you know. So, and I can just immediately tell them stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that. I think that's, admittedly, for my channel, is one of the things that makes me, even though there's times where I'm just like, oh, do I want to play an Elite? It's that knowledge of games, or another game is Guild Wars 2. Having that knowledge of those games, just because of how many hours I have in it, it's great to have that knowledge, especially when other people come in, because I don't know about you, but whenever people ask questions and I have an answer, it feels good to be able to provide that answer and help another player out.
I mean, I can see it after like 1,000 plus more hours of the same questions over and over again. It could be like a little frustrating, but yeah, maybe like that's when you like write up an FAQ, right? And then people ask for like a quick answer. You just refer them to an FAQ that you've made over the course of a year or the 1,000 hours that you play the game, you know.
Well, that's
that
why
you keep getting those same questions.
You can't see it on the screen, but if you're in chat now and live, you can see the roadmap command I have in my chat for that purpose, because it's one of the quite big questions is like, well, what can you do in this game? You can do all that. And you're right. Oh. You're absolutely right. It's there, but it's so fun to do that too, because then people see the image and it's like, oh, but they end up finding that useful too, just because of the fact that you just provided it in such a compiled, easy way. Thankfully, someone else made the image, but the fact is still true.
Whenever I'm playing Elite on stream and somebody asks me what you can do in the game, I'm like, you could fly, you shoot stuff, and you could truck.
That sounds about right.
Like, those are my like answers. Even though I know like I have 1,500 hours in the game, I still have like, my brain doesn't work like that. So it's like, what can you do in the game? I don't know. What do you want to do in the game? There's so many things you can do.
We talk about Elite almost every time we get on the show, right? But I can't help but share this because it's so cool. So a couple days ago, we had a guest over that was up here for a conference in Minneapolis, and she's a rocket scientist. That's literally her job. And one of her previous projects is she worked on the Cassini orbiter.
Oh, wow.
So what we ended up doing is we put her in Crafty's VR headset and then had her in my co-pilot seat on my Anaconda, and I took her on a tour of the Milky Way. And her reactions were so cool to have that. Like, she was just in awe, especially when we got to Saturn, and she was just like, oh, I recognize this imagery. This is from the Cassini orbiter. Like they used this imagery from that, and it was really cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it was a fun experience. It's great to be able to still find ways to find the game enjoyable and whatnot, or to share it with other people too. And again, it's sharing that knowledge about a game in ways that other people can appreciate, and that's true of all games.
Well, it's for me at least when it comes.
It's annoying, is what it is.
It is, but not much you can do about it. It's OBS.
Yeah. For those that are watching live, thank you for bearing through this live. When I eventually edit this for YouTube and for audio platforms, it'll be weird little hiccups, but it'll make sense, I think.
Anyway, all I was saying is that I'm just like so passionate about flight sim aviation and learning not just how to like turn a plane on, like fly it and then land and turn it off, but what else goes into aviation. Like, not only am I interested in pilots, but it's like ATC, ground crew, what weather, what's the weather like, how does that affect scientifically, how does that affect the plane, how do you get into the aviation industry. Like, all of that stuff is so interesting to me that, I mean, that's what I do even when I'm not streaming, is like playing the game and like reading about planes and reading about this and that. So when somebody comes in and they like ask me a question, or they don't know how to do something, or they're like, I'm looking at Jeppesen charts and I have no idea what this means, and I'm like, oh, here's this and that, and like I'll show you on stream. Like, it just feels good to share the knowledge, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Because when I first started playing Microsoft Flight Sim in August of last year, I had no idea. I had no clue what I was doing. It was overwhelming. I almost quit during the first stream. We were flying around Las Vegas at night.
Mm-hmm.
And I was flying like this little Cessna, and I had no idea what I was doing, and I could barely get it in the air, and I could barely, like, it was nighttime, and I could barely look out the window without crashing into the ground and reading my chat. And people were like really supportive, and I actually had just like a buttload of people there, because there was so much interest in the game, and they like bared with me and like kind of helped me like learn how to fly the plane. And then we actually had a couple of pilots come in. That is the kind of stuff that I love, you know? So I love being able to like share that knowledge with other people, so they don't have to go through the frustrations and confusion that flight sim can easily be, you know?
That makes sense. I think one of the things that really got me about flight sim, and what really made it hard for me to get into it, was the fact that I was trying to fly it with a HOTAS, and I'm not entirely sure which control scheme or what controls you use, but using the X52 that I use in Elite made it difficult.
Really? I have the X56 Rhino, which is right there.
Yeah.
And I love that thing. It makes, like, look at, I guess you can't, there's too much stuff here, but there's so many switches and stuff. As long as you can map it, you kind of remember what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to map it yourself, which is such a task. But once you do it, it's like Elite, you know, once you do it and you get it down, you're like, oh, this is just second nature.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the stuff that you would a lot of the controls and stuff have buttons in the cockpit, so you don't really have to rely on that. You could literally use an Xbox controller now, so you know, you don't have to.
That's part of what I was going to ask about, is if it made sense to use like an Xbox controller to try to simplify the experience a bit.
You have to, absolutely. I mean, if you're out there and you're like, man, I have a HOTAS, but I just don't want to set up the control schemes. Like, dude, just plug in a controller and hop into it.
Okay.
They purposefully made it easy so it could be launched on Xbox, you know. So
fair.
But like I said, all the controls are in the cockpit. They're all pretty much, they all do something. So as long as you know what they do, and now like when you look at the control, it pops up with like a little tooltip, and it says, hey, this is the throttle, this is the mixture, this is the vertical speed up and down. Like, it all kind of makes sense, which is great.
Sure.
They've done a good job. So yeah, I love what they've done with it. It's revitalized the category on Twitch. I just anything that's gonna like bring more aviators to, or at least nerds into the aviation community, you know, I'm down.
Cool.
But I played just so much of that. Last night, huge shout outs to Chucklefish. They gave me a code for Starmancer, and we were checking that out. Starmancer is the only way I can describe it is if you've ever played Space Haven and RimWorld had a baby.
Okay.
So it's a colony management survival game set in space that you have a space station and you eventually like build it out and you clone people. So this it's got a really messed up humor, which I love so much. It when people die, when clones die, you take their head in a vat. you take the head and you put it in an analyzer, and then you can reclone them, but you have to have DNA to do that. But it's very crazy. It's great. The first 2 or 3 colonists, not difficult. Add 5 colonists, things get a little crazy. There's a lot of social interaction between them. Like you need a toilet. If you don't have a toilet, they get really mad and they like pee on the ground, they poop on the ground, and then you have to collect the bio waste, and you have to like, you can sell the bio waste or use it for fertilizer, but that's like later on in the tech tree and stuff. So like you're just storing it and they get mad. And so like RimWorld, they get like buffs and debuffs. And once they get to like a certain level of unhappiness, they start fighting with the other colonists, which also brings down that colonist, who then goes to the other colonist and brings down that colonist. So eventually you get this spiral where everyone dies. It needs some work. But it's really good. It just came out into early access yesterday. So Starmancer is fantastic. But like I said, it definitely needs some work. I can't wait to see what they do with it.
Keep an eye on that one then too.
So we played this game, this little indie game called Eco. I'm sure some people out there know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about, but go ahead.
Yeah, Eco is a game where you are set. Think of Minecraft, but a little bit better quality graphics. Only a little.
Oh, yeah.
It's set on a planet which has like a whole environment, trees, like flora, fauna, and there's a asteroid coming to kill you.
Yep.
And so you start with nothing. Well, you start with like a stone pickaxe and a stone axe, and you eventually reach through, or you advance through the technology tree for like have lasers that you shoot down this asteroid. But in doing so, you need to like smelt copper and iron and stuff like that, and you pollute the air, you pollute the ground, you pollute everything. So you have to be careful to not pollute everything, because if you kill the planet, what's the point in stopping the asteroid? You know. But if you don't do it quick enough, then the asteroid kills you anyway. So it's kind of like this weird balance, and it's a community server where we have like 40 people on. It's been a lot of fun. Unfortunately, it can be a little dramaful because you have to like make a government. You don't have to, but things get easier if you make a government and a central currency, and then people can set up their governments and be like, no, heck you, I don't like your government. Our government is better. Our currency is better. And so you kind of have like the people who aren't in the government are like, I just want to buy stuff, dude. I just want to buy this so I can make my house or whatever, you know. Bears in chat has thrown me off of his mountain. He has a mountain called Bear Mountain, and it's like one of the tallest peaks in the game on our planet. And he shoved me off of it while my truck was full of stuff. So how it works is you can actually pick up a truck in your inventory. Unfortunately, you have to take out the coal or whatever it runs on, and then you have to take out all of the contents, and then you can pick it up. So Bears knocked me off of his mountain and then he knocked me into my lake by my house. And generally, he's just a troll. He's just a troll.
Okay. I wouldn't know anything about stuff like that at all.
Yeah. Anyway, Eco is great. We have a community server, and it's a lot of fun, and it feels really good when you have your community get together to try to stop an asteroid. Eco needs work. It is very much a work in progress. The thing is, Eco started as an educational game because of, like, you know, the environment, like the biosphere is basically like, this is what happens when you pollute, and it like kills these plants and it kills these trees. And then it also teaches conservationism of animals, because the animals will not only reproduce, but to the point where they kill the planet.
Mm-hmm.
They also kill themselves. They pollute more than humans. So you have to have hunters in the game to cull the numbers, and like they have graphs and charts and stuff to really, really like hone in on how many plants are in the game. Have there been any extinctions on the planet? Like all kinds of really cool stuff like that. But it needs work. It's so unoptimized. Unfortunately, after like an hour or two of playing, you have to like log out of the game and then log back in because there's some kind of leak in the game or whatever. But nonetheless, it's so fun. And there is, you know, going back to like my casual playthrough of stuff, it's so good because it has so much depth.
Mm-hmm.
But it explains nothing on how you have to do anything. So you really are just like, what the hell is happening? Apparently our snapping turtles are almost extinct.
No, not the turtles.
Not the snapping turtles, those little jerks. The thing is, I think the wolves probably are eating them or something.
At least the wolves are getting by. Yeah, I didn't realize that it had a resource issue like that required a restart, but
yeah,
isn't that also still in early access, or did it hit 1.0?
Yeah, no, it's early access. It's been in early access for quite some time. It looks like February 6th, 2018.
Okay.
Not like a horrible amount of time, but
It's been there for a minute though.
Yeah.
Sure. Other games that you've played, or did we hit most of them?
Did you play New World?
I didn't play New World. No, I did not get in on that beta.
Oh, well, that's fair. I have a girlfriend who can get me into stuff like that, so I got really lucky. But I played about, let me see how many hours of New World I played.
Yeah, how many hours of New World did you play? Let's talk about that too.
Yes, let's talk about that. So New World is a new MMO coming out by Amazon.
Yep.
Where it's set in a different dimension of, like, I want to say the like 1600s. So you have like muskets and swords and axes and shields and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So the game itself is super good. Okay. I played 8 hours of it. I played it with some friends. I didn't go ham on it because I really don't have a lot of time. So 8 hours is a lot for me. But I actually loved every minute of it. There's like very little that I had bad to say about New World. It needs optimization terribly. And so they pushed the release date back from this month to the end of next month, September. I believe it's September 28th is when it's coming out. After the closed beta test, they announced that, which was pretty interesting. The blowback was not so bad, which is good, because I think we've had so many games like Cyberpunk come out, which have just been completely
right back to us, just like that.
Well then, hey everybody.
Hoping that little extra step that I took fixes it this time. Probably not, but One can hope.
Yeah, I think you need to restart your computer or something at this point.
Well, so
I don't even know if that'll work.
So what I did is after OBS crashed and I opened it, I actually closed it again, so I had a chance to save the settings I had, and then opened it again. See if that does the trick.
Let's hope that works.
Yeah. So blowback.
So yeah, blowback with New World. There's some interesting news about New World, you guys. A lot of, let's say, how do I say this politely? A lot of the seedy underbelly of games journalism likes to latch onto anything and everything about this game. So there's some fair things that happened, right? There's some fair criticism on Amazon here, where there were people naming themselves something like Amazon employees pee in bottles and stuff like that. And there was some like a little bit of trolling in the global chat, but it wasn't like terrible or anything. It was like occasionally they'll be like they'll be talking about Amazon as like a company or whatever. And this, in my opinion, I don't know, you feel free to disagree, but I feel like it wasn't really worthy of an entire article about how New World global chat was like trolled for like 20 minutes.
Have you looked at the global chats in WoW?
I've not. I don't play WoW, so I've not.
It couldn't possibly be any worse than that. And it's per map, right? It's always per map. But if you can survive that game and the toxicity that exists in that game, the New World probably has nothing to that. Oh, yeah.
I mean,
and to Dis's point, we'll touch base with that when he gets into the show too eventually. But yeah. Oh, yeah. Chuck Norris jokes.
So yeah, I mean, New World, the gameplay itself, I played somebody who dumped all their points into dexterity so I could use a musket and hand axe. So with an axe, you don't use a shield, you just have an axe. And I really enjoyed like hunting and crafting. Crafting in that game is so addictive. It's so good. Like, you go out, you mine, and like the better the tools you have, the quicker mining goes. And same for skinning animals, and then you can cook. And then so how it works is you eat every 20 minutes or something like that, and you regen while you're out and stuff like that. You can set up a camp anywhere in the wild. You actually have to get resources to build that camp. It's like very little, minimal resources. It's a lot of fun. I'm not gonna lie. I really enjoyed the mechanics. I enjoyed the graphics are like simultaneously really good and also kind of look dated at the same time. I don't know how that worked. I don't know how they got it to simultaneously feel like it was made about 5-6 years ago, but also make it look really good like it was made now at the same time. It was a little off-putting, honestly, and maybe just me or something. But like the trees, like the textures and stuff kind of looked a little wonky. But something that happened with New World is that it was bricking really nice graphics cards. Like, I guess one person, maybe two people, maybe a few more. I don't know. I've only heard about 2 reports officially, but they were I think it was killing 3080s or 3090s.
What?
Yeah. So there was no FPS cap in the menus. So you would start the game and it would just use all of your resources. For why? I don't know. But it wrecked some people's graphics cards. But something that I noticed, I have an RTX 2070. And I did notice that it used a lot of the resources. It didn't max it out, but it was damn close to it.
Interesting.
So I wouldn't be able to stream that game. There's more than 1,000 frames.
Yeesh.
Yeah. So it definitely has its problems, but that's why they said, hey guys, we're not going to release at the end of the month. We're going to release at the end of next month, which I have no problem with. I want to play the game, but I also, I'm okay with waiting. I don't want to have my computer light on fire. I'm okay with that, but yeah, I enjoyed New World in my review of New World, which is a very casual review. It's pretty good. It's all right. There you go. My review, everyone. That's pretty good.
Nice.
I think that's pretty much. Oh, I played Such Art. This is the last one.
Okay.
I played Such Art really quickly. So while we were downloading Microsoft Flight Simulator, Microsoft for some reason caps your download rate at like 10 megabits a second. I have 2 gigabit internet. I pay $100 a month for 2 gigabit internet. So here's the problem. The new update for the Xbox launch was 108 gigs or something. Or maybe it was like 90.
Good.
I think it was like 90 gigs to download. But then, just wait, there's more. Because once you get into the game and you finally do that, now there's a world update. And guess what? That's 28 extra gigs. So I started downloading it an hour before my stream, thinking, yeah, dude, I have no problem downloading that. It'll be done before I stream. Thinking that is what we would play that day.
No,
that is not what we played that day. Because all day we played 3 different games, and as we were playing them, thinking, oh, maybe just like another hour, maybe just another hour, and it would be like boop, boop, boop. And so the first download didn't finish until 2 hours after I ended my stream. I streamed 9 hours.
Jeez.
And I started the download an hour before I started my stream. And so in that time, we played the Mini Motorways and the Rim World, and then we played this little indie game called Such Art, where you are an artist. Mm-hmm. Like, you're in the future. These like alien crab people have taken over Earth, or at least the ocean, and you're in a station, like a space station orbiting Earth. Mm-hmm. And all art has been made by computers and robots. And so you apparently have this art gene in you. And so you're like the special one. You're the special artist. You're the savant, the only one left. So you are tasked with making art for people. And you have like a little computer, and it pops up with like emails saying like, oh, hey, I want this and that. And of course you have the like obvious troll, like, oh, you want me to pay for your art? No, thanks. I'm good. I'm a content creator, and I was just gonna pay you an exposure. But it turns out this person had like 5 followers or something. Anyway, it's really good. It's like a physics-based like painting game where you have like a giant canvas or a small canvas. Like you can just mix and match all your different paints. And I was tasked to paint a unicorn, and that unicorn had an extremely long face. The face was a little too long. Let's just say that. And it was a lot of fun. I after that, I just decided I was going to paint hot dogs.
So is it free outline? You can just draw whatever you want, or how?
Yeah, no, you can paint whatever you want on a canvas. It works just like real painting as well. So if you put like titanium white on the canvas, and then you paint over that, mm-hmm. It mixes with the colors and stuff.
Okay, which
is really cool. The developer gave me a code for it, so I was like, I should stream this game. It's $20 on Steam. It's really good. It has some weird brush issues, so like you can twist the brush back and forth, and as you're painting, it kind of goes a little buttery, like you're just very like.
Wait, how does that go again? How does that go? Okay.
It's really fun.
Okay, and just so we had a good understanding there.
It has Twitch integration too, so you can ask chat how good you did, and people can boo you. You can damn well bet that my chat booed me every time.
Of course. Oh gosh. Nice.
Anyway, that's all I've been playing.
Awesome. Well, I think we're gonna try to get to a break. So for those that are here and watching live, we're gonna get up, move around, stretch and such, and get situated for the back half of the show. If you're listening to this or watching this on one of the other platforms, it'll just be a jump cut. But yeah, we'll see you all after the break. Bye. Well, we almost had the stream theme start up there for just no reason whatsoever. None at all. No reason at all for that to happen. So, everyone, welcome back to the Newbcast podcast. We've suddenly been joined by another a new challenger approaches, right? That's the meme, right? I think that's the meme.
A wild Dizzy appears.
A wild Dizzy appears. Dizzy, welcome.
I unfortunately did not bring my goose costume.
Welcome to the show nonetheless, though.
Thank you. Thank you. But yeah, not being part of the podcast was not an option. Never an option.
Yeah. Some shape, form, capacity, whatnot. Anyway, Dizza, glad to have you on the show. So welcome back. Have you been playing anything lately? Let's just ask you that quick before we dive into some of the topics.
Yeah, sure. I've been playing a few different things. I have to admit, I have been playing a lot of Final Fantasy XIV lately. As have a lot of other people on the interwebs, as it turns out.
Yeah, a few people have done that. You're right.
And so far, it's been pretty intriguing. I have to admit, I haven't gone through all of the main quest storyline, which is kind of the track that the game paths you through. I have spent a ton of time leveling, and in retrospect, that was the worst decision ever in my life. I thought this was going to be a standard MMO. I thought this was going to be just go ahead, knock down units, go do your daily thing, and get your levels and be good to go.
Nope.
Everything is locked up in this main story quest, and if you want to be able to go forward and progress, apparently you don't have to pay attention, but they're going to at least put it in your face and be like, you should check these things out. So I've been proceeding to do that, and I've finally gotten to the point where I'm doing the post-game content for the most recent expansion.
So I guess the question I have is, did you get to the point where you ended up paying for the game in the sub, or are you using the new version of the free trial that they currently offer? Choose your words wisely.
I have a problem with MMOs where I don't play them and still pay for them for some reason. So the subscription for Final Fantasy XIV has been going on for a year and a half, and I've probably played before the last couple of months here, maybe 30 hours.
You're the reason they make money.
Well, good. It's a great game. They deserve money.
Oh my gosh. No, what I mean by that
game.
Yes.
It is a great game, but you should not be paying for it if you're not playing it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I mean. And it's kind of what the business model depends on, is that people are just I'll take care of it later, and they never do, and then they end up paying for the game even though they're not playing it.
Oh yeah, I'm a lazy consumer. Capitalism has proven itself to destroy me as it usually does.
I think Quinn Diesel has a good question to follow up with that then, is do you at least keep the client updated?
I have been for the last couple of months.
I mean, I have 700 hours in Final Fantasy XIV. It is a very good game. I really enjoy it. But come on, man.
Look, my big thing with it is what I played of it is fine too. I feel like I'm probably the most least experienced out of the three of us, right? But that's because I keep going with the free trial versions, because if I get a paid sub, I get promptly reminded of how great Guild Wars is and how that doesn't actually have a monthly sub.
That's fair. I think the story is a different experience, though.
Yes,
like I definitely think they put that money and that investment in that storyline, and I love the post game content that they've developed in it. Don't get me wrong, Guild Wars has very good content. You know, especially with Living World, I thought that concept was absolutely wonderful, and Final Fantasy XIV's taken it to a new level for me.
Mm-hmm.
So, does just what do you mean? What do you mean, bro?
Okay, based off of my personality and the extended time that we've spent together,
are you
what kind of class?
White mage.
Oh, wow, I've been called out straight up.
Am I wrong?
No, you're not.
There we go.
But you know what it is, though? I was like, hey, as a white mage, I'm going to get all of these parties. I won't have to worry about queues for dungeons. I can just go
It's
in power
so
level.
Nice. Oh my god, it's so nice. You click and you're immediately in a group. DPS, you're waiting like 35, 45 minutes sometimes. Instead, you're just a click. Even tanks have to wait sometimes. If you're a scholar or any kind of healer, you click and you're instantly going to do something.
So one of the pieces of feedback that I've heard is from some of the WoW refugees that have ended up in Final Fantasy XIV, is where these players will end up in an instance with these pugs, more or less, and when they say, hold on, I don't know this instance, can you help me through this, instead of like GG noob blah 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 whatever you would get in WoW, and the player base in Final Fantasy XIV is more like, oh my god, new player, great, let's introduce you to this and get you to know the dungeon and actually teach you.
Yep.
Can you verify?
100% true. Although I'm a little worried about it, because you have so many refugees from WoW coming in. Like, are those people necessarily going to own that and be ready for it and be like, oh, this is super cool? I think for the next few months, as all of the people that Asmongold's kind of persuaded to move over, among others, kind of settle in, we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And
I mean, I agree with you on that.
So it's a question of whether or not that holds up then.
I think it will. I hope it will. I think getting that experience is like, wow, this is refreshing. I am so used to people just yelling at me for not necessarily knowing a mechanic the first time and things like that. And to be fair, if I want that, I can talk with my friends. They will be happy to critique me, and I'll have that moment if I need to. But yeah, if you're in a pug group, like, everyone's there for each other, and I think there are a lot of incentives and support in the game that help out with that. If you keep that person in the game, you get additional bonuses towards like your daily rewards. If you fail on a trial, they'll give you a buff and encourage you to continue forward. Like, there are smart mechanics that help facilitate and reinforce that social environment, and I think it's a really cool example of how you can take game development tools and affect people with it.
I mean, we touched on this a little bit, like when we first started, but those WoW people who would yell at you because you didn't know a dungeon or whatever, because I didn't play WoW way back in the day, so I came in and like even in the newbie dungeons, people would be just kind of like snarky and rude. And then I went and I played Final Fantasy XIV, and everyone was just like genuinely nice. The only toxic person that I've ever seen in the game so far, and I've played almost 700 hours, is a friend who I brought into the game being rude to a newer person than they were, which is crazy that this person had played for like 2 weeks and then was like toxic to a newer player. I haven't played with them ever since then. I was like, I'm done.
Yeah, I can't blame you for that. teach people how to play the dungeons and whatnot, because once they learn it, you never know, they might actually be a great partner to have in a dungeon with you.
Oh yeah, you never know who that person is too.
Yeah.
See them once. The WoW mentality is I'm only going to see them once.
Yeah.
And Final Fantasy 14 is like, it's very easy to break that track if it's a matter of, hey, I like when I'm treated that way, so I'm going to go ahead and treat others that way. Like, I feel like the philosophy is just different.
Have you ever been running dungeons with friends and then like you get a rando and that rando runs a dungeon with you and then you queue up again afterwards and that rando goes into the next dungeon with you as well?
I can't say that's happened a ton for me yet, but I also think it's because I've just not run a lot of dungeons at once. I would feel far more comfortable doing that with Final Fantasy 14 though.
Yeah. I mean, eventually your dailies, you get so much XP for being a tank or being a healer for this category of dungeon. Final Fantasy 14 has different types of dungeons, like you have trials and then normal dungeons and leveling dungeons and then alliance raids and different stuff like that. So your dailies are going to be doing like 4 to 6 things just in dungeon queuing alone. So it's pretty easy to queue up with a rando for like 1 or 2, sometimes even 3 dungeons. Because I usually play with like 2 to 3 other people. So sometimes we have like a full party and then sometimes we need an extra and we just use the party finder for that. And it's like instantaneous because I'm a scholar, so a healer, and it's really nice. But also, okay, since you're a healer, and I know we've talked about this on stream on the podcast before, but like, are you like me, where when you say hello to someone at the very beginning of a dungeon and they don't say hello to you and they don't respond to you, the first pull you just let them die?
I think that's just you. I'm fairly certain that is just you.
It's just my god complex. That's what it is.
Yes.
Okay. No. See, I think you're actually being fair and reasonable on it. I'm the sort of person that's like, if that person went ahead and was like, you better run this and triple pull everything and handle it all and all of that, I'd be like, okay, I'll try my best. I'd be up for the challenge. I wouldn't say I'm not going to heal a person at all. And I think that there's probably a middle ground there between the two. That it's like reasonability of all people. But if you're going to choose one or the other, I should probably choose your option.
Let's just agree to disagree here. That there is no middle ground. You either are the person who goes and pulls more, or you are the person that is me and you let the person who doesn't say hello to you die.
Tally ho for sure.
It's so much fun. I mean, you have like Swiftcast for resurrection. So especially in like new dungeons, but like the people are all like level 80, you just like go at him. You got him, Tiger. Go ahead, I'll be over here.
I'm just gonna slowly cast this because I know what's gonna happen in a couple of seconds.
Yep, exactly. I mean, we had a gunbreaker super bullied over and over and over again. If you don't know what that is, it's like a spell that basically takes you to 1 HP, but you're invulnerable for 5 seconds or 10 seconds. So essentially, it is a troll to the healers, where you could just basically die, and then like you have a macro setup, so you press it, you go to 1 HP. The healer's not paying attention; they're just seeing like your life go boop, and you see in chat, "Heal me, heal me, heal me." And you're like, "Oh shit! Heal, 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 heal!"
That's so good.
We had a person do that over on cooldown, and I was like, if you do it again, I'm not healing you. And he didn't do it again, but
oh my goodness. Now, do scholars get like a full heal on a long cooldown like white mages do? I don't know.
We don't get a full heal, but we do get armor buffs. So there's like essentially it heals you for a percentage, and then if you cap out at your full HP, then it gives you like extra that little yellow bar, which is armor. So you're like mitigating so much more damage by just giving them that extra armor, so they can like take a couple of hits without actually taking hits on their HP, which is
I wish
really
I had
nice.
shields like you have shields.
We also have a fairy who heals, so we can like pick our nose and like eat our boogers, and the fairy is healing, so you don't have to do anything. It's great. So if you're out there and you want to pick your nose and eat your boogers, Scholar is the way to go.
Oh my goodness.
No?
And-
I have
and
the
Mitch is
barely
just
a
like,
thing.
on.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
in Guild Wars 2 where I don't heal anybody.
Oh, you just heal yourself.
Maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit.
That's only a little true. One of my elementalists is spec'd for healing.
Well, yeah, but even when you heal in Guild Wars 2, it's not the same sort of experience. You can't take someone from like no health up. You're just like, you get like 15% of your health over like 5 seconds. It's fine. You'll be fine.
I mean, with the elementalist and the way it specs, like you can do you can drop mass like multiple AoE heals, and you can see a health bar kind of regenerate relatively well from dropping those mass AoE heals.
Mm,
And that's what I end up doing.
that's fair.
Yeah.
The only other thing I've got to say about Final Fantasy XIV is it is good to finally understand Lahi. And anybody who has played and knows what that's referencing is like, oh my god. But you should search out Lahi at some point.
I do not understand this reference.
It's probably the best song that you can listen to in, I dare say, any MMO. You should see the live performance that happened on the last Final Fantasy XIV like event.
I don't think your word that it was interesting.
So there are instruments in the game which you can actually play real music like with.
Yeah,
It's
I've
like
heard that.
It's kind of like DDR or something like that.
Yeah, no, I feel like any general MMO has that too, you know, that's come out or had a release date in the last decade. Any of them have that. And it's interesting because I mean, if you said the macro right, it sounds pretty good.
It's pretty
You
fantastic, actually.
you can do it even without a macro. Like if you're good.
If you're good, yeah, but wouldn't it be easier just at the macro setup?
Yeah.
But less fun.
It is a lot less fun, especially when you mess up and you just bing, 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 and annoy everyone around. Oh no, is that just me? Oh, no.
I think that's just you.
Oh, whoops.
You're the best. What else have I been playing though? I've been playing the kind of sequel, I guess you'd call it a sequel to The World Ends With You.
Okay.
Hereby titled Neo, The World Ends With You, because they couldn't just have, the number 2 afterwards.
No. Why?
It's TWE.
Twooey.
Yeah.
Twooey, which is the best social group ever. Like all of the fans, the Twooey fans. Truly, we are Twooey fans. Yes. The original game came out in 2007, I want to say, on the DS.
Okay.
And it's kind of an action RPG. On the DS, it was renowned for using all of the different things that a DS could do in a very, very unique way. Like you had basically 2 different combat events going on the upper screen and the lower screen. The upper screen you would navigate using your directional pad or your buttons on the right.
Mm-hmm.
And then you would do things like scratching on the surface to activate special attacks, or screaming into the microphone of your DS in order to have a powerful sonic attack go and defeat your enemies.
Oh no. It's like 2 a.m, everyone's asleep, and you're like,
Ah!
ha! Ha!
I mean, it came out while I was in college, so that it wasn't really a concern.
Everyone's like asleep. You're in a room full of 5 people. Ha!
Oh goodness.
So I was really curious about the game, one, because I loved it during that time. I thought it was really unique. You got the opportunity to customize like fashion wear, and not only did the stats of the equipment have some importance, but like what brand of the equipment was important and would improve certain stats and things. So as a strategy lover, it was awesome. It was also one of the first games that I saw where you could change the difficulty playing the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was such a novel concept to be like, yeah, you can make this game as difficult or as easy as you want in a moment. So you're getting close to the end and it's starting to get real tough, and you just want to get through to the storyline and get to the end. Yeah, take it from hard to normal. Take it over to easy if you want to. Don't fight 14 fights all in a row. You can just fight 2 or 3. That's fine. And that degree of control is really interesting. I'm glad that they kept that in the game. The core element of the story, you are a teenager living in a neighborhood in Tokyo called Shibuya.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of an important area. If you've seen any photos of Tokyo, you've probably seen like the Scrambled Crossing. And that's like the main hub of Tokyo socially. And you find out that you're doing this thing called the Reaper's game, which is this weird, like, you're in the real world, but you're not. And you're in a competition to get yourself out of this game. There's a lot more to it, and there's a lot of complication. As a sequel, it relies very heavily on you knowing and being interested in the characters from the original game, which is probably not the best decision for a game that was released 14 years ago.
Yeah, I feel like any game that has holdover from a previous title, like those games have to come out in pretty quick succession of one another, within a couple years of one another. Otherwise, if you're trying to do that and it's over a large, vast period of time, either one, the people that actually enjoy those type of games or enjoyed that original game probably forgot what they had done, or the people they interacted with, or two, no one knows what the hell they're talking about, and it's just confusing and convoluted.
Yeah. It's a dilemma, and even though first week sales in Japan, where, you know, all of these wonderful JRPGs are housed, did put it in the number 1 spot, it was pretty close to being number 2 to the latest Legend of Zelda release, which is kind of disappointing. Especially when the story is absolutely fantastic, and I think it's worth a playthrough even if you haven't necessarily played the original. And if you did want to play the original, they have made versions available so that you don't have to play a 10-year-old console to have any interest in it.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say it's definitely worth that look. The representation of Tokyo is super cool and makes me geek out about eventually taking a trip out there. And the characters are wonderful. The plot is kind of busy, but it's not as convoluted as like Kingdom Hearts is. Note that this is coming from the same producer, and I think same director as well.
Now that you say that, I've probably watched about 6 hours of Kingdom Hearts. I don't know what the plot is.
Yeah. It depends on which 6 hours you watched. Did you watch the Disney parts?
No, it's like 6 hours over the course of like, I don't know, a year. So maybe not even that. It's like 6 hours over the course of like a month or something that my friend played it. And I don't know. What the hell happens in that? I know that there's Donald Duck and he sounds, I have no idea what the hell he says. There's Mickey Mouse. There's a Final Fantasy character. Is there a Final Fantasy character in it?
Yes.
Okay. That's like the player character, right?
Not necessarily.
Nope.
I have no idea. I have no idea
Some
what
of
the
some
hell.
of some of
what
the
even is that
antagonists.
game?
It's some of the antagonists that are like Sephiroth is in one of them, and Cloud's in there, and it's look. That's all I know for sure. But I only know this information because I'm a big Final Fantasy fan, not because I've played Kingdom Hearts.
Look, guys, let me explain the entire plot of Kingdom Hearts for you in a couple of moments.
This is not going to be a 12-hour podcast. I've already told Hippo no.
There are 13 shards of darkness and 7 shards of light, and they're all going to get together and create this crazy thing and create this thing called Kingdom Hearts, which is super powerful. And this bad guy named Xehanort wants to take it over.
Ban him, kick him out.
Actually, here, I'm just going to do that. Yep.
Oh, yes. And overcome everything with friendship. That's very important. Overcome everything with friendship.
Okay.
So the good news is Neo, The World Ends With You is not nearly so convoluted, probably because it hasn't had a whole bunch of different spin-off games and things like that. So pro-con, having to wait out 14 years for something like this.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and the music is phenomenal.
Fair. That is fair. 1 second here. We'll go ahead and keep conversing this, you two.
Rhode Island, neither a road nor an island. Discuss.
Yeah, I don't know anything about Kingdom Hearts. I'm not a fan. It's one of those games where like you see what's going on in it, and if you're not really into like Disney or like the characters in any way, it's one of those like maybe I'll play it later, and then you just never do. You never get to it, you know.
Yeah, I mean, Kingdom Hearts is one of those scenarios where you get a lot of cameos, and it's like it's interesting, but it's not really important who the characters are. You get like 5 minutes of we're gonna push a little bit of story arc in here. What does it feel like? Every anime that has more than 100 episodes, basically.
Too many.
Especially, well, it's very Sailor Moon. Because here you have all of these stories, you have all of this different scenario that we're going to describe. It's all kind of in its own house, in its universe. And that's how the worlds of Kingdom Hearts go.
Mm-hmm.
And then outside is all of the convoluted stuff between the different characters and all of that. And they give you just a fragment of it, just enough to be like, oh, I want to know what's going on here. So I'm going to spend 20 minutes going into the Jungle Book. Great.
Yeah. Yeah.
That doesn't appeal to you as someone who appreciates your time? Wow.
No. I don't know why. I think I just don't care about Disney characters.
You know, okay, so I've heard a little bit about that, and the thing of it is like I'm a Disney fan, I'm a Final Fantasy fan. I just can't bring myself to do this one. I can't.
It's all like the acting is like overly dramatic to the point where obviously it's not even. It's Disney. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not my thing.
Yeah.
All right.
The good news is The World Ends With You is not that. So
that's good.
Go ahead.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else gaming wise. Not really. Those have been the two mainstays, at least for the past little while.
Got it. So for the last little while, one of the big things that we were talking about with games that you've been playing is Final Fantasy XIV. And we've seen a surge of players that have gone to Final Fantasy XIV as refugees from WoW because of the big thing that's happening over there. And I think that is worth a mention. Just a wee bit.
It's true. I think there have been a lot of factors that have gotten Final Fantasy XIV to the point where it literally is unable to sell digital copies of its game because it's sold out.
Yeah.
How is that possible?
Somebody put an arbitrary limitation on it to make sure that the servers don't go too crazy. I mean, I get it.
Oh, okay. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, so in as somebody who does play Final Fantasy, like just casually, not so casually, they are going to be releasing a massive DLC in, I believe, November or December, and that is going to merge all of the servers together so everyone can play together. So how it works, there's like data centers, and then there are split servers on that data center. It's like a right. So if you're in this cluster and your friend is in this cluster, you can't play together, with them, which is really stupid. It's very, very old school because this game came out forever ago, right? So they're merging all of that into like one, so everyone will be able to play with each other, and don't take that out of context.
There's the sound effects I don't have queued up for that, and it's a real shame that I don't. Missed opportunity.
I did it for you.
Not the sound effect I was going for. Whoop. As I completely cover Dizzy G with stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Nothing. There's nothing to see here. There's nothing at all to see here. I'm totally not trying to cram it all in the last second. And yeah, that sounded bad too. And look, just because I do have, look, okay. I was able to get it.
Oh wow.
You did it.
Wow, you did the thing.
Look, okay, so what I was trying to get to is that there are the WoW refugees, right? And that's stemming from the big headline that's been just a massive storm in the gaming sphere, and that is the lawsuit that Activision Blizzard is currently facing that was brought on by the California's Department of Fair Employment and Housing, which was a 2-year-long investigation. The issue was with gender discrimination and what was cited in the lawsuit as a frat boy-like culture.
Yes. It's very sad to hear, but also, unfortunately, in the year of 2021, not shocking in the least.
No. I think one of the big misconceptions about this particular lawsuit is that it is just Blizzard that is cited in this lawsuit, but it's Activision Blizzard as a whole. It's just that Blizzard is got a big spotlight on it because of the allegations surrounding the incidents back in 2014 with the and I hate saying this because it is so cringy, but the Cosby Suite, they called it the Crosby Suite in the
oh my god.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen that picture?
Yeah. It's awful.
Yeah.
So
it's absolutely disgusting.
If you're not following this story in any way, shape, or form, back, I don't even remember what you said, 2014 or whatever, 2014.
Yep.
Some staff members were staying in the Cosby Suite, and there was a picture of Bill Cosby, and it was a giant one, and they all took a picture in front of it, and unfortunately, then all the news broke about Cosby, even though everyone kind of knew what was going on, at least in the comedy industry. They kind of knew.
Yeah.
So that picture now in modern times, kind of, especially with all the stuff coming to light, really doesn't sit well, does it?
No. Well, here's the thing of it too, because the excuse was that they tried to go with is that they were trying to say it was the sweaters, that it was absolutely about the sweat. First off, no, that's fucking bullshit. Just flat out. I'm not even gonna censor that. That is just, it's absolute horseshit. I
saw you reach over.
I was gonna reach for it, and I'm like, you know what? No, I'm not. I'm just gonna let it go, because here's the thing. This was at BlizzCon. That sweet thing happened at BlizzCon, and if you don't know where BlizzCon takes place, it takes place in Anaheim. I don't know about you, but I don't know a single person in SoCal that wears a goddamn sweater in the middle of summer.
No. No. As somebody who lives in Irvine, it's 85 to 86 degrees every day. We're in August. I was like, what is it? Oh god.
Yes, we're in August.
What year is it?
But yeah, So it's like, first off, it's the end of summer. It's not about that. Plus, the leaked message thread surrounding that, the language and the behavior that was displayed in that message thread just further verified that is not why they called it the Cosby Suite. They knew just as much as the comedy industry did about the true behavior there.
And they had like pictures of like naked women on the beds and stuff. Like they knew what was happening. There's no explaining it away.
There's no excuse for it.
No.
Yeah. Like it's crazy to me as somebody who's just a no-name streamer. Like, how is it that no one in PR? Oh, I know why, because PR was actually actively gaslighting people, but like no one was like, maybe this is gonna bite us in the ass in a little while. Maybe we shouldn't post these pictures to the Facebook group. Nope, they did it. Like, they didn't even think that any of this was a problem or that would ever be a problem.
Well, it's because one of the leads for the HR department within Blizzard was part of the whole problem, which, when you look at the initial statements that came down from the executive leadership about being able to go to HR or leadership about it, it's like, no, because they've been implicated in this too. So why would anyone feel safe going to people that have been implicated in the exact same accusations being made by the state of California? That's asinine that you would even think that was a reasonable idea. Just the whole thing was so tone deaf, and the actions of not just the Blizzard executive staff, which thank goodness for resignations there, but Activision as a whole. What a shit show.
There's at least one man at Blizz that still needs to step down. I would say at least two that I can name off the top of my head. And they are so egotistical that they would never do that.
No, and they really should be gone. Look, I think it's good that J. Allen Brock is out of there and that he resigned from it. The part that gets me is the fact that he still won't admit any wrongdoing in this, or by just allowing that type of culture to continue to fester, even if by reports the last few years have gotten better overall, it still festered and was still a problem, right? And it's I think there's a bigger issue with it, because it's not just Activision Blizzard. I mean, just a couple months ago, Ubisoft was in the news for the same thing. Riot was in this news 4 or 5 years ago about the same thing. You see the toxic shit in even Twitch that go into chats about the same thing.
It's an industry standard, unfortunately. I am glad that it seems to people are seemingly getting outed constantly, but it's like this stuff should have never happened to begin with, you know. So it's nice to get this stuff out there and at least get somewhat semblance of justice for the people who were wronged. But I just it's too little too late, you know. These people, some of these people are still in power at Blizzard, and they should step down. Unfortunately, a lot of things at the moment, because they're in a lawsuit, means that they can't actually take any action whatsoever. They are not allowed to legally. So you have like a lot of people on Twitter saying like, this person needs to be fired, this person needs to be jailed or whatever, but they can't. They literally can't do anything. This has to go through court first.
And that it is unfortunate. And again, one of the things I want to shine a light on is that a lot of first thought is, since Blizzard is the main most in light of this, Mike Morhaim's statement, although Mike was in leadership when some of this stuff was still going on and it still allowed to fester under his leadership, at least he came out and said, this is wrong, and I apologize wholeheartedly about how this went down. The fact that he made the statement that he did was at least the right type of reaction that you should be taking. And look, you can't forgive Morheim for letting that being allowed to fester at Blizzard, at least while he was there. But at least he's willing to own the time while he was there that, yeah, this was a problem, and I screwed up on this. The only person that admitted fault to it is the one person that's not there anymore.
Well, surprise, surprise. Well, they can't.
I was gonna say
they can't. They literally can't.
Yeah. Well, sure, because then they admit guilt.
Exactly, and this is going to court, and you can't, like, you legally cannot say stuff,
right?
Because they do have a gag on them right now, and not it. Well, I was gonna say not in the sexual deviant way, but well, maybe.
Yeah. See, what's the other gal's name that's on the Activision side? So as far as the rest of the leadership, right? You look at the Activision side of it. Bobby Kotick needs to go.
You know, I wasn't gonna call him out, but yeah, that he's number one prime suspect.
I don't even care. I'll say the name. He's got to go.
Yeah.
I mean, because not only is it under Blizzard where that's been allowed to happen, but other studios like Treyarch and other Call of Duty studios that was allowed to happen. If you read through even listen to the statements of the various things that were found in the investigation, one of the things that was found is that male employees were allowed to play video games while the women had to pick up the slack and actually work that much harder. That was at Call of Duty studios. That wasn't Blizzard.
Well, he did make a statement, but it was like why did you even post this statement?
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't really an apology. It was just yeah. And that's kind of like the whole feeling that it was, if anything, it was more enraging than anything, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's the sort of scenario where the silence speaks volumes, right? If your best defense is, oh, hey, you're misinterpreting what this situation is, it's actually something else, and that is the legal defense that you're making, because that is the public statement that you're making.
Yeah,
you are implying on that, no, there isn't a better defense in this situation.
Well, mm-hmm.
That is, like, by definition gaslighting too.
Yeah.
So, like, saying like, oh, you're crazy, that never happened, like, it clearly did. Someone killed themselves because of you let this happen.
Yep. Which that particular situation too, that was another Activision, that was a different Activision studio, that wasn't Blizzard where that happened. So that is definitely under Kotick's leadership, where, like, at the top of it all, he's involved in it. And as far as that gaslighting, the worst of them is Frances Townsend. She is by far and away the worst. And yes, I will call out that name too.
I mean, that's where all of the, like, you know, in HR, where they were literally, like, people would come and complain and say, hey, this is happening, like, what can we do about it? Like, do you need to know about this? And HR is like, you don't want to call out your coworker, you don't want to ruin your career. It's like, what?
Yeah.
You know, it's disgusting, and it's on every single level of not just the industry, but, like, specifically Activision Blizzard, at every single level of just disgusting corruption and filth that needs to just it needs to face justice.
Right. And there's a lot of employees that are on the floor level, right, that they've been doing their part. There was 800 plus employees that walked out during the walkout last week. On top of that, there are even more that because of their situations or the circumstances surrounding their position, they couldn't necessarily walk out because it meant that their project would be completely scrapped. And in those cases, it was the case of suddenly the work just didn't get done as much that day. And for them being able to stand up for their part, good on them. But unfortunately, their voices are just lost because the leadership at the top is incredibly tone deaf and just so poorly managing the situation that recently a second lawsuit was filed. I don't know if you heard about this one, but because of how messy it is, the investors of Activision Blizzard filed a suit for not properly disclosing the issues that they were actually facing within the companies as a whole. And because of that entire mismanagement, investors felt that they were completely blindsided by this.
You know, I only give a little bit of skepticism because I know when it comes down to shareholders, like they're there to make money and that's about it. Like
these are hedge fund dudes who are like just a little while ago, just a few months ago, fighting against Reddit because a bunch of nerds got together and said, we're going to bankrupt you because we're tired of what you're doing.
Yeah. Oh, don't get me wrong, right? I'm not opposed to them losing the money, but
oh yeah, for sure.
I am in no way opposed to that. Let them lose it, because look, even if they lose a ton, they're gonna have a ton more to. They're dragons. They're just dragons, and you know what dragons do? They sleep on their piles of gold.
Well, this is the problem with like them, is that they would just invest money into a startup, and then if like the startup doesn't make a certain amount of money in a certain amount of time, they're like, oh, well, we're bringing our money back, and then also you owe us interest. And so not only do they like give this company a false hope, but then they like, oh, now you're broke and now you owe us like just thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. You know, so these guys are scum of the earth as well.
Investors are they're going to defend their interests. I don't think that this piece is anything other than, hey, we know that the future of Blizzard and Blizzard Activision is looking real bad because of things that you didn't tell us before. We should have at least known that these things were going on.
Yep.
Yeah.
But still, to bring that up as a matter of lawsuit tells you how significant this is. Like, people know that this is going to have a significant difference in how often people are going to go and buy their services and consider their next games. You know, like, well, there are some big releases on the horizon too.
There are some big releases on the horizon. Because of everything, Blizzard hit their 52-week low just a couple days ago, which is a 20+% drop from their peak just a couple months ago.
So I have a question for you guys, and so how do you feel about like the companies as a whole? We have Activision Blizzard, who have been arguably top dogs for 20 years. How you see WoW with all of the people abandoning it, going to Final Fantasy 14? Is this like actually the time where Blizzard and Activision are going to face like serious ramifications for like how they've been treating everyone? Because while every time in the past we've seen people leave WoW, we haven't seen people leave WoW in this amount for another game. And we haven't seen the just utter destruction of the WoW story. There are lore nerds out there who are so incredibly angry with the Sylvanas storyline that they are just like, I'm done. I'm done. I'm out. Essentially, if you don't know like the WoW lore stuff, like they made Sylvanas like do some genocide, just a little heckin' genocide here and there, and then they forced the Horde players to be involved, and then she turned on them, and now the Horde players are like, what the hell? So
well, I feel like they really lost a lot of their story capability when they lost Chris Metzen, so you know that doesn't surprise me at all. I think this will impact. Look, the only way that anything's gonna ever change with that overall is if it, and it was said in chat excessively, Salt said it perfectly, if it impacts the bottom line.
One would assume that this is going to impact their bottom line. People not only just leaving WoW for like a little while, but like leaving in droves for another game. 2 lawsuits that are significantly shaking the companies to the core. Like, this doesn't look good for them. Finally, it does seem that these 2 companies are going to pay some kind of consequences.
Sure. So I guess I have a better question though. How does this change the industry as a whole?
That is a good question, because we see this, as you said, as a standard, right? We've seen it in Riot, we've seen it in Ubisoft, we see it in Blizzard and Activision. We see it in the other companies that have gone under, like Telltale. Like you see this culture of crunch and work and work and work and sexual harassment constantly, that at some point there has to be a turn. Where that turn is, I have no idea. Will this change behavior? I doubt it. But I do. Okay, actually, I do believe that those people like Bobby Kotick and a lot of people came up in the very beginning of the video game industry, right? And they're the ones that are at the top right now. But a lot of these people are getting their legs swept out from underneath them because of their toxic work environment. Like, for instance, there was a company last year who, like, the CEO was called out for sexual harassment, and the whole company fell apart, right? And this person was, they came up in that environment. And I think that those people are on their way out. And I do see a new generation of game developer or management coming in, but I still think we're so far off from like actual change in the industry as a whole. This is one step towards that, but I don't see it changing for a while, like overall.
I think there's a process to it, is the challenge, right? Because you can get leaders that sincerely want to make a change in that environment. But even if it's coming from the top down, it has to go through processing. People who want to be able to do those sorts of behaviors will find obscure ways to do it and ways to hide it and avoid it. Like, this is a piece in that process. And hey, like, steps forward, great, but we can't pretend that just by getting a different executive in that suddenly things are fixed and all good,
right? Because it is that culture that's ingrained into the company, and not just a company, it's in like so many, it's in our culture. That's the worst part, right? It's not just the gaming industry, it is a whole. It is everywhere, in every company, in every group of people. There is, at least to some extent, this kind of culture, unfortunately. And I think as time goes on, like, we are changing that, but we need an age of reckoning, I guess that's kind of what you would call it right now. We had that in June in the gaming industry, specifically in Twitch. We had a reckoning, and now we're seeing like another small version of that happening with Activision Blizzard. Like, we need these things. We need these people to be called out, and we need them to be held accountable for our culture.
That's the word, though. That was the word right there. You just said the key word in all this is accountability.
Yes.
Yeah. That's the big one, because you mentioned Twitch and the issues that are on here, but yet there was just a few weeks ago where a woman streamer that had 40 some odd viewers was being harassed by a foreign partner. A partner, no less, that had hundreds of viewers.
The sad thing is that, unfortunately, as somebody who's been on Twitch since Justin TV, this is not new.
Well, it's a part of the whole culture as a whole, right? Like,
yes, and unfortunately, Twitch, they have, thankfully, they have overall been trying to change that. I don't know, like, what Twitch can really do other than like ban that person, right? And are they gonna do that? Like, is this person who's harassing people making them money? Yes. Are they going to stop that revenue stream?
Yeah. See, that's the problem, because it's bottom line again. That's the problem.
We've seen big Twitch partners do stuff that, like, if any other streamer did, would have been immediately banned forever. But they get banned for like a week or even a month. Like, they come back. what happens with Twitch is if you're banned, especially bigger people who have a huge community, if you're banned, Twitch is the bad guy. The person who was banned is now a martyr. When they come back, their sub numbers skyrocket.
Yeah.
Their viewers skyrocket. It's not a bad thing to be banned by Twitch for whatever reason, because it's just making you a martyr and making you money when you come back. I think that Twitch needs to do something specifically. I am not a smart man. I'm just a streamer. So, but I do see, I've been here a long time. I do see things that do need to change. And I do hope that that at least someone out there for Twitch is paying attention, because I don't know.
It's tough to find a good solution.
It really is.
So
I mean,
I think they need to be, things need to change, and they need to be, since Twitch is the leader of all streaming platforms, they need to be the beacon of that change. And I don't know if they can do that. Maybe I'm a little cynical, so I don't know if they will.
I don't know if they necessarily are ready to, if they're ready to take that risk on. But I think the core element here, and maybe this is the lesson that we learned from Blizzard, is that there's a risk either way, right?
Yeah.
This set out here relatively unknown for 4 years, and got investigated for another 2 before all of a sudden everybody's talking about it and there's an effect. And is there going to be a significant impact? Yes.
Well, I mean, look at Riot. Riot was called out like a year ago, and nothing really changed about Riot.
Yeah.
So I mean, having been directly affiliated with people in the Riot stories, and the fact that Riot was 5 years ago, and even now they're like, I do not want to talk about that, really speaks volumes to just how horrible it really was. I've mentioned that before on this channel, at least, that was a thing. Anyway, this is another one that we got to stick a pin in and just see how it plays out. I mean, with it being in court, and especially with the government involved, even if it's a state government, it's going to take time to see it play out.
Unfortunately, when you bring government and lots of money into things, nothing really ever gets solved quickly, or ever, honestly.
Nope. So let's take a left turn here and talk about something that could be a little more positive. At least it's a talking point. I have a hot take in here, and Hippo, you and I were talking about this before the show.
When don't you have a hot take?
I actually have a question for you, and both of you can answer this. Is there a place in the gaming market, as it were today, in the games that you play? Is there a spot for linear, story-driven games in this day and age?
Absolutely. I although for me personally, for my channel, my community doesn't like that, because we're extremely interactive. So whenever there's like dialogue-heavy games that we play, it kind of it defeats the whole feel. So I tend to not play story games on stream. I love story games, don't get me wrong. I love them. I just don't stream them.
I will definitely say that there's a space in it, given how Final Fantasy XIV is literally that. Like, main story quest is a line. You don't get branches. The closest that we've ever seen is, hey, you can read this chapter of the story and then that chapter, or you can do that chapter first and then get this one.
So, you're right, and that's in Final Fantasy XIV. I think the more interesting one is the fact that EA proved EA wrong in this whole thing.
So beautiful.
Because it was EA that said not too long ago that there is no market for linear progression games that are story driven. And yet Mass Effect Legendary Edition not only outperformed, it well exceeded expectations by not only getting a large amount of the player base to buy the game, but they had a large number of new players that was familiar with the franchise but never played it buy the game and played it in mass numbers. Crazy, right?
Gee, who would have thought that there's a lot of people who actually enjoy single player story driven games?
Right. It's crazy, but I love the headlines, and I've seen it on more than one site where it literally reads, EA proves EA wrong. It is so incredibly satisfying to read that headline, but it speaks to something that I think is really cool, is the fact that Mass Effect, a game where it had its own controversies, the end of 3, I'm not gonna go into that. I have my own opinions on that.
We already went into it a little bit.
Yeah. But despite that, and despite the people knowing that, it still sold incredibly well.
Yeah. I feel like there's a segment of gamers out there who absolutely don't have any interest in story-driven games, and that they feel like their perspective is the only perspective that one may have on games. I feel on the other side of things that people who enjoy story-driven games are like, oh yeah, you want to play a competitive game? You want to play a game that's literally just a sport? Sure, do your thing. That's cool. There's space for all of this.
And then you have me, who is like, just give me a sandbox game, dude.
So it's funny because you guys saw this in our discussion room that we share headlines in, right? But one of the headlines, one of the opinion pieces about that too was that 40% of the people play the game the most boring way.
40% of the people play the most boring way. 40%. So that is a minority by 10%.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess technically, if you want to get really technical, 11%. But
so according to this opinion piece, it was because 40% of the player base played the game as a soldier. That was the class that they chose. The various, it's like Vanguard and what are the Infiltrator, etc. 40% play soldier. So the reason I bring that up now instead of waiting a few more moments when I was going to bring up that because I have a hot take about that, and I'll get to that in a second. But I think that for the people that don't necessarily have a story-driven game, they just want to shoot things, the soldier class kind of does that for you, though.
Yeah,
it's the default class because you know what you're getting into when you have like what the hell is a biotic?
Yeah, right.
What is a biotic? I have no idea. If you've never played Mass Effect,
you have no idea
what that is. No one. That's not like a term used anywhere else.
Yeah.
So you're like, I don't know what that is.
No idea what it is. Having played it now, playing it now, going back and wanting to play a Vanguard is definitely something that's on the list of things to do because that looks like a lot of fun. But you wouldn't know that prior to going into it.
Yeah, independent of like knowing the game. Hey, would you rather be a soldier or an engineer?
Yeah. Yeah.
More people are going to pick soldier, I think.
You're like, what is an engineer? Do you fix things? Do you build things? Like, it needs a description. And I guess they do have descriptions, but they're not like, again, if you're going into a game for the first time, it's like, what do I know? Soldier. Me shoot thing die.
Yes.
Thing, I throw big boom, kill thing. Me win.
So
good.
For the hot take, for the hot take on this, just to poke at this article a bit, the issue that I have with that particular article is not necessarily that it's boring, but the fact that you would go out and call it boring. Look,
that's just clickbait.
Yeah, it is. Well, it is. That's the problem. And that's exactly what the writer was going for. And so shame on you for doing that. Two, no, that the boring way is the wrong way, because if that 40% of those people are enjoying the game, that is not boring. They're having fun.
Is this person who wrote that article is the people who come into Twitch chat and be like, you're playing the game wrong?
Yes, they are. Yeah.
Those people get banned, by the way.
And
it just so happens that person got to write a story that was actually read by some people.
Yeah. I mean, if that's honestly how you're gonna gatekeep a game like this, then take a long walk off a short pier. Okay, because
how are you not playing this video game on the hardest difficulty? Ugh.
Right.
Stupid streamer. Play it the way I want you to play it.
It's like, no, I want to experience the damn story. But it's just the fact that we go out of the way to talk about that, and then continue to poke on that was close to 70% of the player base chose the Paragon-based route.
I know this is like completely like, this is sort of on topic, but I personally like to do the chaotic neutral route, or even like, you know, just kind of be like good for overall, but then just like, oh, you looked at me funny, come here, I got a bullet with your name on it.
Yeah. Right. Well, talking about this before, right? And I mentioned that I chose a RP character and I used her mindset for how I make decisions, and that's exactly what she does. It's like generally good, but you're sitting up in Mass Effect 2, you have all those Krogans that are up on that catwalk. They're just sitting there and they're just blasting down at you as far as like, we're going to destroy you, blah, blah, blah. And they're sitting right under a propane tank, or a propane tank directly underneath them. They're like, fine, I'll just shoot the propane tank. Bang. Boom. They're all dead. It's like, guess you shouldn't have been standing there now, should you have?
That was efficient.
Just this conversation makes me want to play Red Dead Redemption 2 again, because that's exactly how I played it. I was like, oh, this person is like taking this woman off into the woods. Oh, let me kill him. And then it's like some dude walking past me is like, oh, you smell like crap or whatever. Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, I guess ultimately, like when it comes to those stories, like if you're as long as you're playing it and you're having fun, then you're playing it the right way. There's no wrong way or boring way to play it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure if this was the same article or something similar, but there was like a poster of all of the different like common, uncommon things. And there's a supplement that was like, here's the rarest way to play Mass Effect, which, I mean, if you want to play and see the game in a way that nobody else has, and that's of interest to you, awesome, but you have zero obligation to do that. You do what you want. And like the only wrong way to play a game is to play a game in a way that actively ruins the experience for other people. Like that's the one time where I will say, no, you are wrong in the way that you are playing a game. But past that point, it's your own world. It's your fantasy world for a reason. Gosh, go hang out with Iron Bull if you want to, or don't.
Oh man, I play RimWorld a lot, and there's people who come in and they're like, oh, you should get this pawn. A pawn is like a character. It's like, oh, you should get this pawn in your colony because it's the most optimal. And I'm like, yeah, but it doesn't make for a good story if I don't just like harvest their organs, cut off their legs, give them wooden legs, and then release them. Like, it doesn't make, that's not fun if you're just like, okay, and now you're part of our community, and you're part of our community. Okay, now you're leaving. Okay, all right. It's like, that doesn't make a good story. It's just playing the game the most optimally. And sometimes, sure, like there are instances that is a great thing to do, but overall, we're trying, like as streamers, we're trying to be entertaining and fun, and maybe playing the game the most optimally isn't the most fun way, right? Or at least the most entertaining way.
So, and I think the stats are really cool to look at in different ways that people have played it. GamesRadar.com really did a great breakdown of this and talked about some of it, just going over things and seeing the different way players play the game, or the number of players that play things a certain way, I think is really cool. Like, I know a lot of people were like, why did you save Ashley on Vermeer? Turns out 60% of the player base did save Ashley on Vermeer, while only 40% saved Caden. Interesting little thing there.
That goes to say some stuff. That just goes to say, you know, our society hasn't changed much.
Yes and
also,
no.
Or Caden is just kind of a boring character.
Caden is a little bit of a boring character. You know what my reason was for choosing Ashley over Caden was, right? No? Let me just make sure I'm still making sure I got races right, because I don't always remember them all the time. So if you remember, on Vermeer, she goes with a troop of Solarians, right? My reasoning for saving Ashley over Caden was because she was with a bunch of Solarians that, because I was cognizant of the fact that my choices will be involved in my future my future games.
So what you're saying is you metagamed.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I absolutely metagamed.
Wow.
No. Well, even so, like the idea that like if I save this troop of people, they will probably remember that, and it will come back to help you later, and they become one of your war assets in the third game. So
nice metagaming there, Mesh.
Well, and I didn't see, like, even though I metagamed, I didn't realize that they were going to be part of my war assets. I just had the idea that forward thinking of knowing that my decisions impact the future games. Which is one of the features of the whole trilogy, is it not?
It's true. It's true.
Right.
Also, I mean, Caden. That I think is the best reason. Caden.
Yeah.
You know, I agree with you though, to be honest. So
68%.
He was harangued into his relationship scenario, and I'm very disappointed in that. But you know what? It was representation.
Look,
so
Liara, okay, Liara. I'm just gonna put that out there. And 68% of the player base chose male Shep over 32%.
And FemShep is the way to play.
Yeah,
just to be clear.
I agree.
The voice acting, Jennifer Hale is a voice acting goddess, and she delivers those lines so well. So well. Yeah. If you've only played male Shep and you're like, what are you, just try FemShep. Promise you that you will enjoy those line deliveries that much more because she is so good. She is so good.
I'm just gonna disagree a little bit here on Liara and just say that Tally is bae.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. What about specialist trainer?
And that is a legitimate way to play the game, and nobody should harangue you for it.
What is it about Tally? Could it be that booty, or or could it be mainly it's the booty, but also, you know, just the alien. I think she has like three fingers and like a thumb. You know, this little weird, little. Look, I like things that are different. I guess Liara is different too, but she's still very much a human.
Some other interesting things is 94%.
Like, I'm gonna go. Oh, I'm just gonna.
No, well, there's other things to cover, right? Because like 94% of the player base didn't shoot Rex on Vermeer. So that means only 6% of the player base actually shot Rex there and killed him. Which that has some interesting implications in other games. 93% of the players managed to save the Arachnite Queen in the first Mass Effect, whereas only 7% didn't save her. Yeah, it's really interesting. A lot of these numbers are really interesting. It's really cool that they're able to collect this too, because it really shows the way the players play the game. But I think the cool thing about that is seeing those numbers and seeing how a lot of people experience the game. Just so I believe Dizza was your point, right? That or was it Hippo that talked about seeing how people play the game and go, here's the most obscure way to play the game. Maybe it's worth checking out the story like that to say that you have a completely different perspective on it and compare it to the way that the general masses play the game.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but you don't know the stats going into it
No.
most of the time. You're just kind of like, I personally enjoy going through a story game that supposedly has choices and just being like,
supposedly,
supposedly, because you know, but it's like if this story game, if I make this choice and I don't like the outcome, I'm just gonna deal with that outcome instead of save scumming. It's like, no, dude, just make your decision and go with it, because decisions should have consequences. That's how I play, of course. You can save scum all you want, but I personally enjoy having consequences,
learning from the consequences of it, right? Because it makes it interesting. I encourage that all the time. Like, deal with the consequences, make that story interesting. The only time I save scummed was when I was in a scene where like I get the prompt to like click to get the Renegade or Paragon prompt, and I didn't hit it soon enough, but I fully intended to do it, because
there's a difference though.
Yeah, and that's the only time I've ever done it, is when I was trying to like, no, I was intending to do this. This is not the way I wanted it to go. Everything else, so every other decision, even ones where I was like, oh, those moments, I let it go because those were my choices.
Yeah, I think it makes, I don't know, I personally enjoy a story that has maybe not the best character or whatever. I like things that are different, right? I don't want a power game. That's not my thing. I don't care about being the best or the strongest or the this or the that. I just want to like have an interesting story, something that like keeps me invested, and I guess if it's killing your investment into the story, then fine, but
So,
I think RimWorld really like changed my perspective on gaming and stories.
That makes sense. So,
I hate saying it, but I think I'm a little bit more of a power gamer than I'd like to admit to. Like, I think about my run of Persona 5, and when there are so many different stats that are on there, I'm in so many different characters to hang out with and things like that. There's a certain value in me of being like, okay, if I optimize this, then I have certain decisions that I need to make at certain times, and I have like a sieve that I can sort through all of the actions that I'm making. And it's going to make combat a lot easier for me later. And don't I want easy combat? And I think for a first playthrough, for a game, I really like that. And then maybe later on, I can be like, okay, I know the mechanics, so I don't have to worry about that as much. Let's see how this goes. On the other side of things, I don't think I'll play Persona 5 again, because that's another 140 hours of my life that I would lose, but...
Fair.
Yeah, you say that, but as soon as this podcast is over, I'm like gonna hop into some game that I've already played hundreds of hours, 700 hours in,
So I guess ultimately, back to the big question was, is there a place in gaming for linear progression stories?
I don't understand the concept of there isn't a place for that in gaming, because, well, firstly, like you just said, EA contradicted themselves by literally showing, but the thing is does EA even like acknowledge that there is a base of people who want to enjoy single player story driven games?
Well, I believe that's what made them pivot course a bit on their development of the most recent, or the upcoming Dragon Age game that's slotted to come out soon. Like, that's actually caused them to pivot and go, okay, there is still a place for this. So
there's a place for everything in gaming. You want to go ahead and like be in a territorial, there are no NPCs around, we're just going to fight with each other world, you can absolutely do that. If you want to go and hang out by yourself and have a storybook and literally be in a walking simulator, you can do that too. Like, limitations on these things is absolutely silly, and the only reason that EA would say something like that is because they're looking for how they are going to make money for their shareholders. If they're saying it's not profitable for them to do it, okay, fine, you're wrong. But fine.
I think that I think EA has kind of had a blindfold on for like a good 10-15 years. And they're like, well, we've made this game and that game and it's been so successful, and it's like, okay, sure, but you don't get to say that there is no market for single player story driven games. Like, it is clearly profitable to do that. It's clearly there is a base of people who want that. I think that there's tons of people out there who are like myself and are very antisocial. Like, I am a streamer, and every night for like 5 nights a week, I'm in front of like 50 to 1,000 people, depending. And it's like, sometimes I just want to sit down and play a game by myself and not have anyone around me. And there's nothing wrong with that. And in fact, I personally play MMOs in a very antisocial fashion. I don't engage with other people as much, especially in Final Fantasy 14, where I only engage in the people, like with the people who are in the dungeon, right? Like New World, for instance, I played 8 hours of it, 4 of which I played solo, and 4 of which I played with 2 other friends. And I enjoyed both a lot. I enjoyed both a lot. So for anyone to say that there isn't a group of people who want a story-driven single-player game is just, they're just blatantly wrong, just completely wrong. And it's crazy that they think that they were correct. I don't know.
Yeah. I think there's still a place for it. I think with them pivoting on Dragon Age, that's a good sign. And with the Mass Effect game that's in development, that I think it was labeled as 5, or it's the 5th game at least, that they continue that trend of continuing the story-driven games, because clearly there's a market for it, especially with franchises people recognize.
Man, I would love to play another Dragon Age game that doesn't have a bunch of like other people running around. I want to play. Yes, I want to play those games.
Sure.
Dang it!
Sure.
Let me play them. Make those games. I will buy you. I will buy them. You will make a profit off of me.
There you go.
Because otherwise, what are you going to do? Go back and play Fable again? Go back and play the original Dragon Age?
God.
That's not going to give anyone any more money.
I totally didn't do that and start Origins at all. I didn't do that recently at all. No. Not at all. Not at all. I think though, this is where I would like to go ahead and call it a show. So everyone, thank you for being here and hanging out. Before we go, let's just sell ourselves out and talk about what we got coming up on our channels. We're going to kick it to you first. Do you have anything coming up on your channel? What do you got going on?
Lately we've been binging a whole bunch of different card roguelike games, so that's been a good time. A little bit of Rogue Book, where we have cautiously optimized things and now have proceeded to curiously wonder if we can just try to do things for fun.
Okay.
What is this fun you speak of?
Something that should never be in any game whatsoever. But
right.
Check it out.
You should only play the most optimal.
Obviously.
Sorry, I digress.
Obviously. Anybody who thinks otherwise, like, they don't exist, really. But yeah, cool. You can always check that out on my Twitch channel. And I guess it's been a long time since I've been able to say this. Have I been able to say that the fundraiser was successful with my group with Boston Gamers?
Hell yeah, there you go. Glad to hear that.
Awesome.
Yeah, we were able to, well, we took care of a lot of different things, but we helped with the Transgender Emergency Fund of Massachusetts. We raised, I think it was like over $5,000. It was absolutely sick. So that was an awesome experience. I'm trying to see what else Boston Gamers has as a matter of streaming, but that's still in the infant stages, so we'll see what happens.
Okay. Cool. Hippo.
Hi, hello.
Hi.
It's me, the hot dog guy.
The hot dog guy.
We will be playing more flight sim, more bush piloting in Alaska. We will be checking out Lawnmower Sim when it comes out a day early, and then a day after when it actually comes out. Huge thank you to the developers for giving me access to it before. There will probably be maybe a little bit more Starmancer and a couple of games that are yet to come out, but we'll see if I get a code for it.
Okay.
So that's what's coming out this week. We got a new AFK video out. I finally made that for you guys, and potentially big announcement this week that I am currently not allowed to talk about because of contracts, but big announcement coming soon. Teaser.
Nice.
Is the thumb a teaser? I'm
It
confused.
can be.
It can be.
Does this tease you? Does this feel? Do you feel?
I feel.
Yeah, that's where I'm gonna put that. I had that sound effect. I completely am gonna unpromptly put that there and say, take that.
I'm going to turn redder than my camera ever allows me to.
Oh goodness. Okay. I suppose me, right? I get to do this.
Yeah. What are you doing this week?
Well, gonna take. Normally I do Sunday mornings. Recently, I'm taking this particular Sunday morning off because I have a brand new. I got to adult and I got to buy a brand new couch and it's being delivered on Sunday. So
Hell yeah.
Yeah. But on Tuesday,
sorry, Pims and I just moved in, and we have one piece of furniture, and we're like, where do we get the furniture from?
Yeah, right. Yeah, and Crafty and I had the same thing. Tuesday, Toxic Tuesday with dang it, Didact. Sorry, we can pull you in sometime, Diz, if you want. Didact Gaming, Pro Scream, and Dream RP, where we test our friendships by playing games that would ultimately do that. I think we're doing Prominence Poker maybe this coming. Is that or Geoguessers? One of those two games. We have some games up on the docket. Wednesday, I'm not entirely sure yet. I might just pick up more Power Wash Simulator since I left off at the playground.
Yes.
So I might just do that since I finished Mass Effect. And Friday is a little bit in the air depending on certain birthday situations with another streamer that I'm well acquainted with. And that's what I got coming up on my channel. If you guys haven't, if you're live now and you haven't already, please go consider checking out the co-hosts and show some support. Or if you're from their community and like what you saw here, maybe support this channel just by hitting that heart button. It's free to do and it's appreciated. That said, for Diz G, Hip Anonymous, my name is Miss Michelle Jean. This has been the Newbcast podcast. Thank you so very much for watching. Have yourself a wonderful night.
Bye. Bye-bye.